Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class for the fall 2019 semester, I'm creating a series of video presentations used or based on the book that will be used for that class, and it's Pro ASP.NET MVC 5. An A-Press text by Adam Freeman. I'm working my way through Chapter 17 of 27, and right now I'm up to page 472, Passing Data with the View Bag. The View Bag was introduced back in Chapter 2. The View Bag is dynamic. It allows you to go in and create a variable of any type and use it basically in any way you want to use it. They show an example here where we have created a view bag message that simply holds the string hello. All right. Before this, of course, it didn't exist. We also created a view bag variable with the date in it that's got the current date and time. So to read this data back into the view, as the author mentions here, well, let's grab it. Let's grab, I think we've got the example controller. Yep. Right now we're not doing very much in here, so we'll just change it to this. There we go. Now don't worry, it says it's giving us an error. Okay. And well, one reason is it's missing that. And it says the name date time does not exist in the current context. So we need to add using system. Okay, well that fixed that. We have defined the view bag properties message and data by assigning values to them, and that's basically all we did. Before this point they did not exist. So to read the data back, we simply get the same properties. Okay, so we've got to go into the index.cs HTML for our example. So let's go in here. In fact, let's just do it like this. Index, add view, index, we'll make it empty, and we will change the code so it looks like this. I'm not worried about these errors. I'm thinking or hoping they're going to go away in just a second. Index, the date is messages. I don't know why we're getting that. I think that should be a line break and not a paragraph. I believe that's an error on the author's part. Could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is. In fact, let's put in two of them. All right. So we are in the example. Let's do our file save all. Let's run this. The view bag has an advantage over using a view model object because it's pretty simple and you can send a lot of stuff at one time. When you work with dynamic objects, you can enter any sequence of method and property calls. Visual Studio does not provide IntelliSense for anything that you do with view bag. All right, so we've got here example, index. And that should give us our hello with our day of the week information, I would believe. All right. This is Monday, and the message is hello, and it's correct. I can tell you today is Monday, June 10th. Okay. All right, moving up to page 474, because the rest of the page is a unit test, which I've been skipping. Performing redirections. A common result from an action method is not to produce any output directly, but to redirect the user's browser to another URL. Most of the time, this URL is another action method in the application that generates the output that you want to use. So, they talk next about the post direct get pattern. And the author says the most frequent use of a redirect in an action method is one that uses HTTP post requests. As mentioned earlier, post requests are used when you want to change the state of an application, insert something, modify something, delete something. If you just return HTML following the processing of a request, you run the risk that the user will click the browser's reload button and submit the form a second time. To avoid this problem, as the author mentions right here, you can follow the pattern called post redirect get. In this pattern, you receive a post, you process it, and then you redirect so that the get request. Let's talk about how this is actually used in real life. You've got a form that comes up, all right? That form comes up. Let's say that you have brought up a customer, and you've brought the customer up in edit mode. Why? Maybe you spelled the customer's company name wrong, or they changed an address or a phone number or whatever. So you bring that up as post. All right, you make the change, you save the change, you redirect. Once you redirect, you bring the get version up, which maybe is a list of all your customers so that you can see that the change has been made. All right. When you perform a redirect, as mentioned here on the middle of page 474, you send one of two HTTP codes to the browser. A 302, which is a temporary redirection, and a 301, which is a permanent redirection. Now they say here this should be used with caution because it instructs the recipient not to request the original URL ever again. So if you were going to do that, it might be that you want to redirect because maybe the user has changed, the company URL or something like that, which wouldn't happen often, you wouldn't expect, but it's possible that it could. Bottom of page 474, as you can see here, the most basic way to redirect the browser is to call the redirect method, which returns an instance of the redirect result class. So we go to the example controller, and we go down to the bottom, we can put in this. Oops. All right. The URL we want to redirect to is expressed as a string and passed as a parameter to the redirect method. The redirect method sends a temporary redirection. You can send a permanent by using what's shown here. So instead of redirect, as we've got right here, let's just put them both in again. Now don't worry, I may or may not, I was going to say, get an error message. Don't worry about that. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to replace that with this, which is the redirect permanent. Again, the difference between these two is the first one is a temporary redirect. Maybe you've got a site that's under construction and you want to push them someplace. All right, the redirect permanent basically says that you permanently want to change something. All right, so the rest of 475. The rest of the page is another unit test. So let's jump up to 476. Just checking my time here. And we'll do this one, and then we will finish up on one last lesson. Okay? All right, redirecting to a routing system URL. If you're redirecting the user to a different part of the application, you must make sure that the URL you send is valid within your URL schema. The problem with using literal URLs for redirection is that any change in your routing schema means you need to go through your code and update the URLs accordingly. Fortunately, you can use the routing system to generate valid URLs with the redirect to route method. All right, so in our example controller, we can put in this. All right. Since we already have something that's called redirect, this is issuing a temporary redirection. We can use the redirect to route permanent, all right, method for permanent redirections. Let's take what was in there, which was this one, and let's comment it out. So either we would have to comment this out because there's two with the same name and the same parameter list, or we would have to add one or more parameters here or here. All right, let's just comment that out for now. That should get rid of our error. All right, page 477 at the top of the page is a unit test. So rather than redirecting to an action method, which is what is next here, all right, I'm going to stop right here and finish that up in a last lecture in just a couple moments.